Hello and welcome in.
Please do not leave your luggage unattended on the station.
Welcome to the show.
Hey, what do you say? It's time to talk some Avs hockey today.
I love that. It's an old Avs
Thanks.
thing.
Is it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah. Megan's new here. What do you mean? I thought I just made it up.
No, the Avs used to, back in the early 2000s, before they'd go out onto the ice in the locker room, someone different would say, hey, what do you say? Let's win the game today. Or, something like that.
All right. Well, I guess that's fitting.
I thought that was like an Avs deep
Yeah, I thought
cut.
you did it intentionally.
That was me
No.
giving you a lot of credit that apparently you
No
didn't
credit
deserve.
deserved. No. But welcome in, everybody. Guerilla Sports Off Ice, JJ Jerez, Meghan Angley, Jesse Montano here to break down all the things that are relevant to Avalanche land right now. We'll get into Logan O'Connor today.
Yep.
I think that's huge for the Avalanche organization and for Avs fans all around. And then we'll break down last night's preseason game against the Dallas Stars a little bit. So before we start, we were back at the rink last night. It was a little underwhelming as far as the crowd goes, right? But that's to be expected on a Monday night preseason game one. But boy, was it fun to just feel the vibes, feel the energy again, and just start getting back in that rhythm. It almost feels like, I don't know, the offseason was just a short little stopgap and just hopping back into the routine that we're so used to now.
It was when we got in the elevator and the elevator attendant goes, "Where are you guys headed?" And I said, "All the way up." And that was the first moment where I was like, "Damn, we're really back here." No, it was nice. We got there early to talk to LOC. He spoke almost 2 hours before the game, so we were there very early. But no, it was great to chat with him. Then we went and got the meal and ate, and got stuff edited and all that. And then the three of us actually went out just into one of the VOMs and went and stood on the glass and watched warmups. And it was just, like you said, it was just nice to be back around the sights, the sounds, the smells. You can smell the ice when you walk in, and it was very nice to be back. It was definitely a preseason night, meaning it was really nice to be back. And then
it wasn't.
And then the night went on. But no, it was great to be back.
The warm-up playlist, I don't know if it's just a preseason thing, but I really enjoyed it this year. So I hope it sticks, or at least a few of those songs, but it already felt pretty hype.
You and then a couple of the Avs digital folks were like rocking out to all of that. I did not care for the warm-up playlist last year.
I'm with Jesse. I didn't want to insult you, Megan.
Oh, no. I meant no, last year. I really was.
Shit.
I was shooting down on the glass, so I wasn't really paying attention. I just kept hearing people say, "Oh, this is great." I didn't like the one last year.
I liked last year's.
It was.
I actually looked up a few songs like, oh, I kind of like that.
It
got
too loud.
overdone.
It was too loud, he says.
It was too loud last year. It was just such bassiest songs, and I don't know if a concert came in last year and took the bass to 11 and then nobody touched it again. But like my molars were shaking during warm-ups last year. So I didn't have that yesterday. So by default, I enjoyed yesterday more than
Did you listen to it yesterday?
Yeah, I was at least when we were in the VOM there, I was paying attention because everybody around us was really vibing out to it.
And you did not like it.
I would say no.
There's a Natasha Bedingfield remix to let people in on what they can expect to these words.
I'd like to point out that Megan said, so you did not like it, and you went 2 thumbs down.
All right, you're being polite, and I appreciate that.
I did hear someone saying that apparently Ryan Johansson picked the list last year.
I do vaguely remember him being locker room DJ, and so their win song, we were kind of like, Billie Jean, where did that come from?
Yeah, that's weird.
I was hesitant all year so it came from the Vegas trip, which they coincidentally got their asses kicked on. But the win song came from the Vegas trip.
Wasn't that when they had their moms with them?
Oh,
From
I
the mom's
see that.
trip.
A throwback.
And I was hesitant to say all year because I had people asking what it was, and I don't know. I was so hesitant because I was like, I don't know if that's, should we be saying that? Is that like a stays in the room kind of thing? I just never knew if we should say anything last year, but it was Billie Jean.
Well, I always felt like it wasn't embraced in the same way that Heat Waves was. That felt official as the locker room win song.
Well,
Whereas Billie Jean just kind of played after every game, but it didn't feel like the players embraced it as the win song.
and it felt like it took a long time for them to like pick one.
Yes.
It was different because it was also at the very beginning of the year. It was Morgan Wallen.
That tracks.
I think it was Last Night by Morgan Wallen for the first couple of games, and then
I don't know what or who that is, but I vividly remember being down the hallway and constantly hearing doom, doom,
what
doom, doom,
or
doom,
who?
doom.
So insulting. I love that.
Yeah, when we jumped in the Vom, the glass was like extra clear and clean and just like
Yeah.
looked super crisp. So I was like, that's how you can tell it's the start of the season. No big puck marks. And then when we got to the top of the elevator, who was there? Jesse, who did we get to chat it up with a bit for a second?
At the top of the elevator?
Yeah.
When we got upstairs?
Mhm.
Papa.
Oh,
We
yes.
got to talk to Andrew Cogliano
Yeah,
for a
Cogs was
second.
up there in the press box.
I threw him the question, hey, are you getting the itch at all watching training camp? Was it hard for you to sit through all of this? And he assured me, not yet. He's expecting it to come at some point this season, but right now he's not getting the itch to pop the pads back on and get out there.
Yeah, and he just kind of going hand in hand with stuff we talked about, made the mention about how much he loves Denver and the city, and that's part of the reason why they chose to stay here. We talked to him a little bit about Logan O'Connor and stuff like that. So no, yeah, it was very good to chat with him. We were joking when we walked away, like, oh, we should have told him we were gonna come get a quote from him after the game because he was definitely the go-to on a lot of that post-game stuff last year.
Who do you see being the go-to this year?
Belmar.
Yeah, if Belly makes it.
Has
Well,
to be.
and hey, 6-year deal. I'll see you after a lot of games there, Logan.
Yeah, he's definitely a nicer guy to talk to for us. He's always open and always very
He's
pleasant
very
to talk to.
agreeable. I remember the NHLPA asking him, like, how did you become the rep? And he's kind of like, I inherited it.
Yes.
I was chosen.
Told I had to.
So yeah, let's get into Logan O'Connor a little bit. 6 years, $2.5 million per year. It's a great deal for the Avalanche. Great deal for Logan O'Connor to get that much security in 6 years. He'll still be cashing in these checks. So I think it was easy for both sides to
34. Is this contract takes him till he's 34?
So he's 28 now. It doesn't kick in until next year, right? So it'll go till he's 35.
Oh shit. Okay. Yeah.
Which
Crazy.
I think he even kind of said that in his little presser, right? Where him and his wife were sitting there on the couch, just like amazed that this is real. And I'm like, yeah, if I could be guaranteed $15 million for the next 6 years, I think I'd be in shock too. So having that amount of comfort all the way till you're 35 years old and just being able to look back and be like, yeah, I made a lot of millions in my life when at one point he wasn't even sure if he would make any dollars playing hockey. So yeah, awesome for Logan O'Connor. Great to hear from him and just hear how appreciative he is of the entire thing and of the organization.
I think he's always been such a mature player who gets it, and it's why he forged the path through hockey that he did. But just hearing him speak even yesterday, it just feels like he is so wise, and I think he's a valuable piece in their leadership core, and he's just beginning to step into those shoes. But I'm excited to see what that means for the leadership core long term, having a guy like that in the room. I think he's so important for the culture of the team, and I think he is such an important connector between old and new players, and I think that was missing. We talked about it with Belmar and Eric Johnson and the shoes that were left to fill. I think LOC fills those shoes very nicely, so I'm so excited for him to continue being an Av for life.
I like that connection she made there, that he's kind of an in-between of the older players and the younger players. He's kind of the bridge there between that. I think he's also that with like the leadership and the super serious guys of the room and the goofballs of the room, right? He can kind of play both roles.
He gives me like JT Compher leadership vibes because Compher was a sneaky part of that core because he was there on the cup year. It was Gabe, McKinnon, Mikko, EJ, and Comfort. Those were the holdovers from the 48-point season. So there was this bond between those players of we were the worst team literally ever. And now here we are winning a Stanley Cup. And so JT Comfort had that, he was kind of the leader of that bottom six group. And I feel like LOC is kind of taking that responsibility on. He was here when they were scratching and clawing, trying to get back, into true contender status. He played a bigger role than maybe we even give him credit for in that cup run. And we saw how important he was last year. He does everything the right way. He's a Jared Bednar Colorado Avalanche to a T. Now he's got the long-term deal. This is a guy to me that if you're dealing with injuries this year, like we've seen in the past where, they do have to put a letter on different guys as guys get injured. To me, Logan O'Connor is in that conversation for if you get 1 or 2 injuries deep, to your leadership core, you could absolutely see him with a letter on his jersey. Because I think what you just said there about not only between the old and the new, but between the guys who get there early and stay late and are dedicated and are, setting the tone. He's in with those guys, but we've also seen on display his relationship with Ross Colton and Miles Wood, this week, even, making the joke yesterday when Corey asked him, when you and Miles go out to eat, who pays? And he goes, I don't know, probably Ross. It was him just saying, yeah, I don't go out to eat with just Miles. It's usually the 3 of us. So, I think he's a really good glue guy, I was going to say, but that's a very well-known term.
I know that feels a little cliche, but it's so perfect for LOC.
Right.
I remember last year, Cale Makar told me he wanted LOC to adopt more of a leadership role and recognize that he could be vocal in the room and commanded respect from his teammates, that he's earned that now at this stage in his career. Maybe in past years he hadn't felt that he had earned that place just yet in the locker room, but Makar made a point of saying that he has, and he wants LOC to step into more of a leadership role. And so I was so encouraged to hear Logan, I think it was Jesse, you asked him about some of that with respect to things like the penalty kill and, with Cogs leaving, that leaves shoes to fill, and learning that Foodie's been staying with him. And LOC talked about wanting to embrace that. And I think that he is in that place where he feels comfortable and recognizes that he is an important voice in that room too.
And I think that's the part that he still needs to work on to be a quote unquote leader, because it's on the ice. He does everything asked and he works his tail off every single time he gets a chance. And we've heard from Jared Bednar, he's one of the hardworking off the ice guys in terms of, the culture fit. It's the outward display. I think that he's more of a shy guy, right? He's quieter. He's not used to being hey, give me the spotlight, class clown type of guy. But I think if he can learn to be a little bit more vocal and he can learn to be hey guys, watch what I'm doing. I think that's really where his leadership takes it to another level. And by the time he's 35, I can easily see him wearing a letter by then, right? Once, a lot of time has passed. 6 years is a long time.
Yeah.
This team's going to look completely different, and he's still a mainstay. He'll definitely evolve into more of a leadership role. He strikes me as the Darren Helm type, right? Darren Helm, they didn't want to let him go from Detroit forever until he was kind of too old. Maybe that's when the Avalanche ultimately do move on from Logan O'Connor once he's 36 and maybe isn't quite the player he used to be, if he's even playing by then.
He moves to a player development role, just like Andrew Cogliano.
Right. So there's so many lines to draw between him and former teammates, but I think he's picking up little snippets of everybody that has positive attributes.
Well, let me add this too. And I wanted to try to go back and find the clip, but last week we mentioned on the show right near the end, I said, hey, LOC also due for a new deal. And I said, Megan, what do you think he gets? And, we were kind of laughing. You said whatever he wants, which, not a bad answer. But we were talking about it from the standpoint of, he had 13 goals last year, 3 shorthanded, and he missed a significant amount of time. Just watching him through a couple days of camp, again, you don't want to get carried away, but he looks like offense was a focus for him this year. and he looks a little bit more confident with the puck. I saw him finish on a couple plays that he normally wouldn't in the past. And again, they're drills and stuff, but coming in on breakaways and going forehand to backhand and getting clean shots off and stuff like that. And I said on the show, I said, if you're the Avs, you don't want to get too cute with this, because this kid goes out and scores 20, 25 goals. Like, suddenly you're going to find yourself in a situation where he has priced himself out, even if that ends up being a career high, 20 goals, let's say he scores this year and never gets back there again. Like, still, that's a quality player that you're going to price yourself out of. So I think them getting it done when they did, it's already a good value deal. Regardless of what he does, this season production-wise, if he exceeds what he did last year, it's already a good value deal for what all he brings to the table. Now you're just sitting there saying, well, what else can we get out of him? How high is the ceiling for him still as he's entering into his prime? Can we get more offense out of him like he was showing last year before the injury? He was on pace to have a near 20-goal season last year. So, I don't think that's crazy. And suddenly, if you're getting 20 goals out of him, 20 goals out of Ross Colton on that third line, given what you're paying everybody there, you feel a whole lot better very quickly.
It is such a great value deal when you consider the cap is going up even more, that was the amount that they agreed upon, especially because of his contributions on the penalty kill and the great need that they have for somebody to take ownership of it now. It adds to the value of the contract tenfold, but especially when you look at his trajectory as a player. I think early on there were concerns that the production just wasn't there for him, but he has trended better year after year, even though it was maybe incremental at first. He was on pace last year to have an exceptional career high. And he did tell me he focused on offseason, on his offense that offseason before, and he was seeing the results of it. And it was cut short by injury, but I can only imagine what his focus has been this offseason, because he did get on the ice pretty early into the offseason. So he's been rehabbing for some time now. I don't doubt that he also incorporated whatever he was doing the year before to adapt a better shot selection. I think he's incorporated again this year. And in seeing the way in which Miles Wood's hip injury hasn't impacted his speed and ability in that sense, I'm not worried about that for a second with LOC. It just made so much sense. I think that he's going to pick up where he left off last year. And because of the absences around the lineup, the opportunity's there again. I think so much of what elevated LOC's play last year was having the opportunity, because of guys out of the lineup, to play up in it. I think he's going to have that same opportunity this year. So to Jesse's point, it was good that they took care of this piece of business when they did.
Yeah, we talked all summer about Jonathan Drouin and how you don't mess with happy. Logan O'Connor, clearly very happy in the city. His wife lives here. His wife has a job here. His wife's from here. I think if he goes to test free agency market, there's a lot of teams that see the versatility and see the upside in a guy like Logan O'Connor. So locking him in, giving him that little bit of term to allow him to, okay, I have some security. I don't have to worry about
keep
a
the dollar amount
4-year deal. Is I think a great bit of business from both sides. Another shout out to Chris McFarland for great management work again.
Will you throw up the comment for yeah, I could see that too. For the FU 2006 about the Avs missing LOC. Yep, right there. So I asked Jared Bednar about this last week about, there was a lot of conversation from us even in that playoff about, oh gosh, they missed Landy, and oh man, it would have been nice to have Val. And I asked Jared, I said, was Logan O'Connor missing maybe something that wasn't discussed enough? And he, no question. And he just went on to talk about what Logan O'Connor does is built for the playoffs. I watch him, and truthfully, Val Nichushkin play, and my thought is every time, oh my gosh, would that be an infuriating guy to play against? He is just constantly on the puck, hunting every puck down, finishes his check, gets a stick on you every single time. And I just think that that's something that this type of commitment to me says that not only the Avs, value him as a person and a player and stuff, but that management watched that postseason and saw the same thing. This guy at that dollar amount is just too valuable. We can't even risk him becoming too expensive or leaving altogether. And so again, he's getting more than double the pay. He's getting termed twice as long as he got before. He could end up being underpaid pretty substantially here relatively quick, depending on the kind of next couple of years he has. But to your point, he got the security, because just as easily as you could talk me into him being a 20-goal guy the next couple of years, he could also very easily settle back into being a 10-goal guy, great on the penalty kill, great fourth line, third line guy. Like that's just as feasible. And suddenly he's in a really good spot. So I'm with you, dude. I just think for both sides, both LOC's camp and Avs management, I just think this is a great bit of business. Anything else?
No, I don't think anything else. You're right. I think you also got to think, if he were to go to another team, what's the guarantee he's going to have such a good fit? Right. And I mean, he's such a hard worker. I mean, he strikes me as a guy who, even his entire academic career, was probably a really good student, because he just knows that you put in the work, you get the results. Right.
We'll have to ask him about that.
He kind of just seems like one of those guys that doesn't overthink it, just does what he's told, and then sees the results, and boom, wow, that was easy. I'm just going to keep doing that. But who's to say it would have fit anywhere else? So just not tinkering with anything that works right there, and such a pivotal piece and such a versatile piece. Continuing under Jared Bednar, I'm sure, is going to continue to be great for his game. And I love seeing a guy like Logan O'Connor get to stay on the Paul Stastny track, but maybe even a little better, right? He goes from DU to the Avalanche and
stays
instead of going to St. Louis for some random reason.
Dozens of other teams after that.
Yeah.
That's not a dig at Paul Stastny, but
I'll dig it.
It was for me.
I always thought he was so overrated here. It's
Oh.
crazy.
Oh, I liked the guy.
yeah, I
I didn't
really
say he was a
liked
bad
him.
guy.
Weird. Just kidding. It's funny. You're like, any final thoughts? I said no, but I did have a final thought. From LOC's perspective, why this made so much sense, he mentioned wanting to win. And so I don't know that he necessarily took a discount, but it is a great value contract that definitely makes Chris McFarland look very good as well. But I think that is a component that, you don't mess with happy, you don't mess with the chance to win. And I think the other part of this is being around this group has made Logan O'Connor better. I look at the way that Nathan MacKinnon is a leader for his off-ice conditioning and rehabilitation has had an influence on LOC in particular. That's a guy that really respects the work that Nathan MacKinnon puts in there and wants to follow. And I think that has made LOC a better player as a result. And that is all born from the opportunity of playing in Colorado. And so I don't doubt that he would actually fit on another team, but I don't think he'd want to be on many other teams because of all of the things that make him better in Colorado.
Yeah, we saw the wedding pictures too. They're all a tight-knit group. They're all invited to each other's weddings. They all hang out. They all enjoy each other. The relationship between Logan O'Connor and Cale Makar is just probably something beautiful. They are very similar personalities.
Two wholesome people.
Yeah. So, no, great job by the Avs and great job by Logan O'Connor to get that done before the season even starts, out of the way. Yeah, he doesn't have to think about it for the next 7 years.
Yes, exactly. Because this deal won't. Yeah, like one of you mentioned earlier, it doesn't kick in until after this season. We should let's roll Jared Bednar here, because he does talk a little bit about Logan O'Connor, and that can kind of serve as our segue into the game last night. So this is Jared Bednar after the game last night. Talks a little bit about the game, then he is asked multiple questions about Logan O'Connor and just his thoughts on all of it. And then we'll go from here into the game. Coach, how hard is a game like that to evaluate that penalties in both directions?
Well, I mean, it's not ideal, I don't think, when you're trying to evaluate all the guys you have in the lineup. They're playing for a reason, but at the same time, it's live practice for your special teams, and I think there's also guys that we're evaluating that we're trying to figure out, can they kill some penalties for us? Can they play power play for us? So, we talked about that the other day with some of the guys missing out of our lineup, that I think you can get some good evaluation on some special teams. Yeah, I love that. Well, in general, I love the Tynan line. I thought Tynan, Phillips, and Prishpoff were outstanding. Special teams, I thought Steinberg did a lot of heavy lifting on the penalty kill. Belly was in on that a lot. Poland, there was some guys that had some hard penalty killing minutes, especially in the third period, that did a nice job. I thought the penalty kill was pretty good, except for 5-on-3, which I can't blame him. We haven't touched it yet, And the second one, after a little powwow at the bench, he got much better. I thought Eustace was good, except for handling the puck. Made all the saves that he should make, and then some. Misplayed the puck a couple times, which got a little dangerous. But, good first outing for him. And same thing with Minor, too. I didn't mind his game at all. I like Shillington at times during the game. I thought he was really good. I thought they all had their moments where they played well. I thought Shillington, just like his puck moving ability, looked really quick. He finally got his equipment this morning, his own blades, which makes a big difference. So, it's early, but they all played pretty good.
Logan O'Connor is someone that you want to see coaching this side.
Yeah.
We've seen the evolution of his game. How proud of him are you?
Very proud, yeah. And well-deserved deal, too, right? Like, homegrown guy that we get out of DU. I remember the first rookie camp up in Thornton or wherever that is. And, he impressed everyone with his skating ability. And, Chris had watched him play a lot at DU and make the decision to sign him. Then he goes to the American League and really sort of starts honing his craft. He's a guy that, when you look at our team and the way we stress fitness and the off-ice training, he's been outstanding at that, getting stronger and faster and becoming a better pro over the years. And now he gets rewarded with a long-term contract. And, should be an Av for life. Always. Yeah, always. I mean, like the undrafted guy coming out of college, has a good showing at a development camp, continues it at main camp, then goes and builds his game in the American League. And every time you call down and we're asking about, players that we should be looking at, keeping an eye on, or for call-ups, it was Logan O'Connor's name being mentioned. I was in the building multiple times when he was playing there and loved what I saw, along with our management. And, and then next thing you know, he just even in the NHL, he's developed his game, right? Started as a fourth line winger. Next thing you know, he's playing up and moving around into different areas of our game, penalty kill. Now he's on the third line, and, he just keeps working hard and trying to get better, and he's a great story for us.
One more? Cal Ritchie said they got more comfortable with the game went on.
Yeah, I think you can see that. Like first game, and obvious great poise and patience with the puck and skill, ability to make plays. Power play goal is a prime example. I'm thinking shoot it. Next thing you know, he slides it across for a great, deflection, which ends up almost being an empty net. And he made multiple plays like that through the night. I think as we go on here and he gets in some more games and feels more comfortable and probably playing with more NHL players as we go, we'll see him grow his game just even over the short period of time through exhibition here.
Great, thank you, Jared.
Yep, thank you. Yep.
There you have it from Coach Bednar following last night's preseason loss.
Yo, shout out to Andy. I love that animation at the end. The Guerilla Sports animation at the end.
I do too.
Just to throw that out there.
Shoot, I was looking at the camera. I didn't notice it. I'll
good.
pay attention next time we have a clip. But we broke down what we were looking for extensively in our pregame show yesterday. How did it all pan out? What are some notable observations you guys had from last night's game? Of course, the result is whatever. Who cares?
Mm-hmm.
It's actually great for everybody in the building that it didn't go into a shootout. Ended at the buzzer.
Yeah.
It's fun to see that, no matter, I guess, what side of the coin you're on. But yeah, what did you guys think about the positional competitions we're keeping an eye on, and who stood out to you from last night?
So, Megan and I were, because you were there for a little bit earlier than you had to get out of there before the game ended. Megan and I were having a conversation up in the press box. The guy that kept jumping out to me was Matthew Phillips. But it's hard because I talked about this in the post game. I thought Matthew Phillips had a really strong night. Like I thought he was noticeable multiple times. That is not a guy that is on the radar for NHL minutes. So like I thought it was a good night for him individually. In terms of some of those guys that we talked about, I'll be honest, I had more guys that let's go all the way and use the word disappointed, but I felt like there were more guys that left me wanting more than guys who I felt really looked good. I'm really curious to hear what you think, Megan, because of the comment you made last night in our post game where you said the longer you sit with it, the more you liked Cal Ritchie's night, which I don't disagree. I don't agree, disagree. I want to know what you think because I thought he was good. I thought he was okay. And then I thought Kovalenko was noticeable in a non-production way, which is good. I thought he found ways to be impactful. But I want to hear what Megan has to say on a couple of those, on those two guys, and then if there's anyone else, because she had a lot of really good thoughts last night. You had a lot of really good. I don't know why I'm talking about you like you're not here. You had a lot of really good thoughts last night.
Getting a full night's rest on it, I feel very similarly. I like Cal Ritchie's individual game more. The reason I say it like that is because in the scheme of the whole game, Cal Ritchie's game didn't pop so much to win them the game, for example, and to come ahead as a clear lock for the NHL roster spot that he's vying for. But I still felt from the rookie face-off into this preseason game, I really like the strides that Cal Ritchie has taken. It's still not enough for me to confidently say that he's in the NHL for the full season, but he's trending in the right direction. And so there were things that I liked that he did. And I feel like a broken record repeating this, but what I think plagued him in the rookie tournament and then in the drill setting of camp was his playmaking was hampered because he was still getting acclimated to the pace, and against NHL caliber defenders, a lot of his passes were being stopped. He was able to get a little bit more through last night, and that was encouraging that he is learning and picking up on these things quickly. He played on the same line with Foodie and Olausen, which I find interesting because it's a lot of youth, and so they are really taking ownership of that line together. And I felt that Ritchie probably had the most poise last night. I won't write Foodie off for this one game, but it wasn't Foodie's most polished performance. He made some mistakes that he shouldn't, especially with the pro experience that he does have under his belt, whereas Cal Ritchie, I think, eliminated some mistakes from his game, and he made some impressive plays. I'm just looking through my notes here, but they involved honestly just the ability to find seams, and it worked so effectively that he was able to convert on the power play. I also really liked Olausen's pass to him in that setup for what it's worth. He waited ever so slightly to slip the puck under the defender's stick across the slot to Ritchie. So I really like that from Olausen.
I thought he waited I told you this I thought he waited a second too long. I'm with you. I was impressed that he got it through.
And I actually thought the wait was on purpose to get it to under the defender's stick. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe I'm just hyping him up too much, but I thought that was a little bit of deception to kind of fake him out. But anyways, that was a good thing from Olausen that I saw, but I saw more from Ritchie. On entry, Ritchie was able to either drop the puck back without looking to a Bednar, or he was able to deke a guy and get the puck to Behrens, who I also really liked last night, who came down the slot because he was anticipating Ritchie in that moment. And so I just felt that those were more NHL caliber plays, and I liked the adjustment. I do still see, though, that the pace is maybe just a little bit lacking for Ritchie. He's still getting there in terms of intensity, and I think it was rigorous. I think last night really challenged him, but I like how quickly he seems to be picking up on things. So I stayed liking Ritchie. Kovalenko, another 2, in part because he opened the second period with a nice 2-on-1 opportunity. He unselfishly passed the puck to Bednar, and so Belmar's shot was stopped. So I would have liked to see Kovalenko, who has a good wrist shot, just take that shot maybe in that instance and challenge the goaltender a bit more. But he also drew a penalty. And so, to Jesse's point, like offensively maybe left us wanting, but there were other things that Kovalenko did well that I think really speak to his game and kind of how it's been advertised. And not only did he draw this penalty in a board battle, but he was able to hold on to the puck. He fell because of this. I think it was a holding call. Like, he fell, but he was able to hold on to the puck in all of this chaos. And so I really liked the puck protection that he displayed there, but they also ended up scoring on that power play chance that he helped to give them. So I like that about Kovalenko's game too. He was on a more veteran line. And so of the lines, I felt that was where you saw the most passes connecting because they just got it a little bit more. There was more polish to them. So I think that served him well because he looked to fit in with the other NHL type players in Bednar and Kiviranta, I believe, was on his line.
There were a couple of guys, and some of them were players that you just listed, who I liked moments for them. Like, I thought Prishapov had a really nice play down below the goal line.
I was so proud of him.
To set up the first goal that the Avs scored. Foudy, we had to do a little bit of digging and research, but Jean-Luc Foudy had a really nice defensive play coming back from out high in the zone, coming down low to support defensemen who had kind of lost a guy in front of the net. So there were guys that I thought showed moments of looking impressive.
Yeah, a lot of guys looked good. I don't think anybody was great.
Right.
But
except for Matthew Phillips.
I thought Matthew Phillips. Again, we were kind of laughing. Matthew Phillips, I felt like every shift was noticeable. He was doing something positive. He was good scoring opportunity, things like that. But that was a great game for Matthew Phillips. The Eagles are going to be really good.
And it was Matthew Phillips and Tynan and that connection to each other that you look at the stat card that came from this game, which you have to be very cautious in looking at. But I think what supports why Matthew Phillips had such a good game is he kept the puck on his stick or his teammates' sticks. And so they drove possession and made very few mistakes defensively because they just kept it on their stick in the ozone. And I felt they used their speed. Phillips in particular, through traffic, because he is a smaller guy, was able to just move through guys. I don't think that is going to happen as effectively at the NHL level, for example, but his puck handling, puck skill was so impressive. And so I think that is why, together too with Tynan, another player who thinks the game in a similar way and has demonstrated such adequacy at the EHL level, I think that's why it worked so well together.
Yeah, I mean, it was an overall pretty sloppy game. I think that's to be expected.
Do you have the penalty count? Do you have
I actually should have it.
I meant to go back and look
readily available
well,
here.
The refs were trying to make an impression too. Everybody's out there trying to get an NHL job.
14.
14? Jeez. That if you were watching the game, that feels low.
No, it does.
There was a minute there where I was like, okay.
But 9 of them were the Avs.
Jeez. Arif had a funny joke when we were walking from the locker room to the. He did.
Whoa.
He did.
Whoa. Arif catching strays.
Arif of Colorado Hockey Now.
Yeah.
Right. We were walking from the locker room to the presser, and he goes, "So, Jared, which minute of 5-on-5 was your favorite? Was it the first or the second?" I thought it was funny because that was starting in the second period. That was how it felt. Was where it was like, can we get any 5-on-5 play here? They were all like, every penalty was spaced, like penalty expired and the arms up, goalie to the bench, extra skater.
Well, and in penalties, there were more penalties. And so it wasn't even just a straight 5v4 type power play. There were so many 5-on-3s. This is where I feel sympathy for the goaltenders. Look, we'll get to Onanen. He deserves criticism, and I will acquiesce when it comes to that. But this was just a difficult game for goaltenders because there was no rhythm or consistency, and it just wasn't normal. But that's also very much like the American League. So I guess it's a good primer for them if they're going to be spending any time there. I wanted to shout out Steinberg and Jason Polin, in part because it was so chaotic. We didn't really see much of them at 5v5, but they actually together created at least 2 great scoring opportunities. And so their experience having played with each other with the Eagles also kind of showed last night. But Steinberg was great on the penalty kill, which was heavily tested last night. So they had to really go deep into their depth of personnel for the PK because Bednar, Kiviranta were also kind of the high-end penalty killers that were out there, but it gave players like Steinberg some reps there as well, and I thought that he held his own. This also meant, though, that we saw very little of Ivan throughout the night, and that's why I don't really have much to say about his performance. Sadly, he was someone I was really looking forward to.
I like Jared Bednar's kind of positive spin, because I asked him after the game if like a game like that makes it harder to evaluate, and he was like, you know what, we're looking at guys for how they fit on the penalty kill. Can they play on the power play? How are they in their own end? So he said it was actually, we'll take it because we got some good kind of, live ammo looks, but they could have let a couple of those slashing penalties go. I'll say that.
It was officiated weirdly.
Mm-hmm. And then you've got, what's his name from the Stars, just absolutely jumping Steinberg. And then, well, and it sounds like Steinberg did do something that I had missed to kind of provoke it before.
I believe you.
Yeah. That was what I think Corey said, that he saw the altercation before, but if you just caught it, when the like kind of tangle up happened, you'd think, why did Steinberg get a penalty there? So yeah, we're oddly officiated for sure.
Yeah, I liked Prishapov. I thought he was a bit raw, though, obviously not liking him enough for, even consideration for an NHL job. But I know you're not going to like this. I liked Kivi Ranta's game. It's kind of a game where he was supposed to stand out, and he did. Sometimes it was for the wrong reasons.
Okay.
But he was always first on the forecheck.
I don't not like Yoel Kivi Ranta. I just want to make sure that's not, I don't not like it.
Evan loves Kovalenko. Jesse hates Kivi Ranta. That's now part of your brand. But I thought he looked.
Damn, there's nothing I can do about it here. He just declared it.
I thought he looked exactly how he should. I thought it was fun seeing Shillington and Brandstrom paired up together all night long, at least while it wasn't special teams play.
Sorry, I don't know why I just interrupted you. Keep going.
You go ahead.
No.
All right, Megan. Shillington and Brandstrom paired up together. Wasn't it fun to see them and just kind of get the comparison side by side?
I'd rather talk about Kivi Ranta. No, actually, I will get to Shillington and Brandstrom for a second. But Kivi Ranta, I think he took a penalty, which wasn't good, because it's kind of like I feel like that happened a little bit at the end of the regular season or in the playoffs even. I'm trying to think if it's not like a calling card in this game, but
it felt like he took mental note. It was like, all right, this is a game where I should be able to be the man amongst boys here, and just kind of turn it up a little bit too much, right? He had it at 11, and maybe keep it at 9.5.
It is. And we've talked about this, how he weirdly in the hits per 60 category always seems to register hits that we don't see. He did this last night.
He's got to have someone up in that box. That's just like adding hits to.
There was one time he like shoved someone, and I was like, "That's 2 hits."
Yeah.
But I do think that there is maybe a quiet aspect of physicality to his game that I am not appreciating enough. That I do think is just a part of the way that he plays. Probably why Bednar likes him, trusts him a little bit more than other players, just because Jared Bednar uses the word loud. I do think Kivi Ranta finds ways to be visible each shift. And he set TJ Tynan up, coming out of the box for a really good opportunity. It was stopped by the goaltender, but he should be doing those things. He should be showing that kind of offensive instinct too. I don't expect the depth, whatever it shakes out to be for Colorado, to pack the biggest scoring punch, but you absolutely need to at least see that type of thing. And so I did like that about Kivi Ranta.
I'm going to jump to the defenseman.
It's time.
I thought Shillington looked bad throughout the game. I did not care for his night. The only times he was really noticeable to me, he was making a mistake. He had a couple pucks that I was like, I don't even know who you thought that was going to. I thought Shillington really struggled for large stretches of the game last night. Brandstrom, he had one play early that I remember us all kind of remarking on, that it was a good play in his own end. But other than that, I really didn't notice him much. And again, for as much when those two players were signed, we heard a lot of, oh, these guys are perfect. They do exactly what the Avs want to do. Da, da, da. I didn't see that hardly at all last night. And look, it's a preseason game. There's a lot of other very much AHL defensemen and players out there with them. But I thought, for two guys, Brandstrom in particular, really out to prove that they aren't AHL players. They're not tweeners. They're full-time NHL guys. I didn't care for it much last night.
The mistakes I saw from Shillington, it felt like it was something that naturally comes with being on a new team in preseason game 1. It felt like he was overthinking things. He tried really hard to want to make the right decision rather than just kind of doing whatever comes instinctually. And I think that might go away as he settles in. It might not, but I give him a pass for game 1. But we've already given him passes.
Right. I was going to say,
camp.
how many days of passes does an NHLer get at this point? We're on to like 7.
I'm with you. But as Jared Bednar mentioned during training camp, he's going to assess the 3 weeks as a whole. I think with Shillington, that matters more than almost anybody else out there.
But he gets a whole week of it not counting. Like that's the part for me where like,
not that it's not counting, but if it remains consistent and he keeps doing what he's doing, then yeah, figure out something else and figure out a way.
Because he had his gear last night.
Right.
He had his gear,
which he got yesterday.
Right. And I'm not trying to be like way overly critical, but I'm just thinking back to the conversation we had yesterday about these dollars and cents are going to matter.
Mm-hmm.
I went back and looked at Puckpedia. So right now the Avs are $2 million under the cap with Gabe Landeskog's money counting towards the cap. Val Nichushkin's isn't because he's suspended. So again, the surgery isn't going to have to be like major when they get these players back, but there is going to be some surgery. And as we talked about yesterday, I'm looking at Brandstrom and Shillington, and I'm saying, I don't think, especially if you're adding Belmar, I don't think you can both stay. And I'm just sitting here and it's like, okay. So we're just Oliver Shillington. Like we're just going to keep writing him off for him. Like, oh, bad practice. Doesn't matter. Another bad practice. Doesn't matter. Third bad practice. Doesn't matter. Bad game. He's fine. It's like, at a certain point, he's not playing well.
No, I'm with you. I'm not saying to keep giving him passes.
No,
it's just more, I'm not going to let the negative outweigh anything he does well. Once he starts doing things well.
I'm waiting for him to do something well.
When he figures it out and becomes a little more consistent, I think we can throw away what we've seen so far. If we continue to see what we've seen so far, you're going to have to figure out something else to do with him.
Because I mean, really, he's the one player that, like I said, I'm close to saying, because I'm trying to take it as a lot. It's been disappointing for me so far what I've seen from Shillington.
That's fair. I think that's fair.
I was not in love with what I saw from both Brandstrom and Shillington last night, but kind of to your point, if he were to start doing some things well from this point, and I find myself wondering what to believe, this stretch is a bit more of an anomaly. He misses an entire day of camp. He gets on the ice briefly with Lehkonen in the morning, as Jesse saw, but he misses important learning, especially adapting to Colorado systems. And so I am giving him a little bit of the Josh Manson pass, because if we had quickly reacted to Josh Manson in some of his early first games, we would not have really liked that player. But he ended up becoming such a vital piece in their cup run that I'm willing to wait a little bit, reserve some judgment when it comes to both Shillington and Brandstrom. The other thing I think about with Shillington not having his gear, and this is me ascribing some things here, but I believe a lot of hockey players are a little bit superstitious. And I also feel anxiety around not getting off to the right foot. And so I would personally feel pretty disrupted and distraught not having my own gear to open camp on a new team. He has a lot to prove to himself. I think that could be a more stressful situation than we've given it credit. And I'm not giving him a complete pass out of last night. I think that you saw some of the puck moving ability that has been teased. He sprang Steinberg for a breakaway opportunity because of a good breakout pass. And so I'm noting those things. Brandstrom he talked about instinct at morning skate, and where I saw the instinct from Brandstrom is in that same chaotic net front melee that Foodie got the guy stick down. Brandstrom's stick came across the crease, and I don't think Jussi Saarinen made a kick save. I think Brandstrom's stick knocked the puck away. So I liked seeing his vision in that chaos where there are a lot of bodies falling around everywhere from Brandstrom, that is. I just overall wasn't in love with what I saw, and I just need to see more.
Yeah, I want to see more. And look, if Shillington comes back and starts stringing together good performances and good games and really, acclimates to this roster, great. I'm all in on it. The Avs need that in that bottom pairing. But again, this was a guy that when he got signed, a lot of people were like, oh my gosh, picture perfect fit. The Avs are going to be blown away by this guy. He could be playing on the top pairing in Calgary. And he got caved in last night. He got caved in playing against the Texas Stars. And that to me is the part that has officially put it on my radar for, is this concerning? Because, correct me if I'm wrong here, Megan, both ends of the ice, it was ugly for Shillington last night.
No, it was for both Brandstrom and Shillington. Shillington perhaps more than Brandstrom.
And these are guys that are coming here that are being looked at to have have the same level of impact that Josh Manson did on the third pairing in the Cup year. Like, that's what you're looking for out of these guys. And from what I've seen, I really liked Brandstrom in camp. So I liked his camp. He wasn't great last night, but I liked the first 4 days of camp. So I'm willing to say, okay, that balances out a bit. Preseason games are chaotic. Like you said, Shillington missed the first day, not his own fault. Got on the ice, not in his own gear. There's caveats there, but he's looked to step behind, and then to come out last night in his gear and have as bad of a night as he did analytically. I thought there were moments where he was fine. He was okay. He made plays here and there. But like, I hear your argument on the Josh Manson thing. Here's the issue for Shillington and Brandstrom. They do not have that kind of runway. You got to make roster decisions within 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. So your window here to clean it up and figure it out is limited, especially when there's a Sam Malinsky sitting right there who has shown he fits in this system, he gets it, he understands, and he's comfortable at the NHL level. I just, with the limited window that you've got here, I'm just starting. Last night was it getting onto my list of, I don't know if Shillington has enough time to clean this up and figure it out and make the NHL roster, which is concerning given that of those players that I just mentioned, add in Calvin DeHaan, he is the highest paid. So they're going to give him as many opportunities to not only make the NHL roster, but be impactful, especially when he's coming here setting out to prove that he thinks he's a top 4 defenseman. He has not looked, to me, he's struggled to look like an NHL defenseman for the last week.
Yeah, I think you're making very valid points. I will say I still feel like it's early.
Totally.
We played Jared Bednar's post-game presser right before we got into this conversation, and it even felt like he had a hard time saying nice things about anything, right? He really had to stretch deep to really come up with positives from that game. So I'm just going to chalk it up as that was the first game for two guys who are on a new team after 4 short days of camp. Hopefully we see them get inserted into more. Like, I want to see more consistency and keep seeing these guys out there, as well as getting Malinsky some playing time as well, because they need to really keep evaluating these guys as closely as possible.
Brandstrom and Shillington skated together last night, right?
Mm-hmm. They did.
So it's not like Shillington was paired up with Keaton Middleton. Sorry, Keaton Middleton. But like, it's not like he was paired with like some, scrubbo third pairing AHL guy. Brandstrom, Shillington, like that.
Oh, I love the idea of pairing them together. What better way to compare them side by side than putting them side by side?
And like, you're even sitting there saying this could be a third pairing for the Avs. And based on what we saw last night, no, it can't. No. It needs to be so much better than what they put on last night that it's like you can't even say like, well, they got to play like, no, that's not even close to what you need to play on this team.
What reinforces the concern around Shillington and Brandstrom is how much I liked Sean Behrens last night. Mm-hmm. This is a guy that we agree is probably a year out from being NHL ready, but he held his own more confidently, or without mistakes is maybe the better way to say it, than these two with the NHL reps. And he hasn't had the opportunity in the NHL that these players have had. But I saw a couple great things, some great blocks on the penalty kill too, some great stick plays that were he was going to poke check a guy and instead forced him to pass out of fear of the poke check. And it led to a cleared puck at the end of the day. And so I liked a couple of things that Barons did, but I also liked in the Richie play that I talked about at the top of the show, how he was willing to burst down the slot in preparation for the offense too. We know that's Barons' game. He can activate as necessary as well, but defensively, I didn't think he made some of the same types of mistakes as Shillington and Brandstrom. I also don't think he was given the same opportunity as those two. So he was a little more sheltered and limited in his minutes. So I want to be fair in that evaluation. But Barons, he played with Callie Rosen, and Callie Rosen analytically actually had a fine night, but to the eye was a little rough at points too. So I think that it is concerning that I can walk away feeling a little more confident in my analysis of Barron's game versus these two guys vying for NHL jobs right now.
Yeah. And again, that's my part with it is these are guys that were brought in to push, like, in Shillington's case, I would say they solely brought him in to push for an NHL job. You were making the argument that yesterday, Megan, that him and his camp were probably saying, no. Not only is he not a third pairing guy, he's a second pairing guy with first pairing potential, even though there's not a lot of analytics that support that if he's not playing with Tanev. So like you said, not only is he trying to earn a spot, he's trying to prove to not just the Avs, not just the league, but to himself that he is worth what he said he was. And it's got to be so much better. It's got to be so much better.
Could you imagine a world where they go with Malinsky and Barons and just let those two guys walk?
Okay, that should be my favorite thing in the world. I'd be a little scared of that.
And again, I expect that if Shillington is a player that he's billed himself and was billed when the Avs got him, that it's going to get better. And that by the end of the preseason, you're going to say, okay, this is a guy that looks like he fits. But we're a week into this, and he's really struggled. Today's an off day for the Avs. They're back on the ice tomorrow. It's not technically training camp anymore, but there are still enough bodies around that it'll likely be two groups still. Like, he's got to come out and have an impactful day tomorrow. He needs to be getting in as many preseason games as possible, and he's got to start looking better. I thought he failed the eye test last night. And then, Megan, when you were running through his splits, offensive and defensive, the analytics backed up what the eye test told you. Again, I thought there were pockets. I thought there were moments where he made decent plays. But he's got to really start flipping that, in my opinion, on the ice at practice tomorrow.
Yep.
If I'm Sam Malinsky, I'm going to really lean into the fact that I have familiarity with this. And so I'm going to eliminate any costly mistakes. I don't think he should play it safe, but I do think he should really flex the fact that he feels comfortable and confident here and carries himself with the confidence of a guy with far more NHL games than he actually has.
Don't play safe, but play predictable and be consistent. We know that is what Jared Bednar is looking for. He wants guys that he's not going to be surprised by anything that they do when they go out there. So, like you said, don't play. If you're Sam Malinsky, you can't play safe, but you got to go out and you got to make sure you hit your marks. You're in the right spot. You're making the right plays. You're making the smart plays. They don't necessarily have to be the safe plays, but that's, again, we've seen a hallmark of this Avalanche team over the years is when they get in a sticky situation, make the safe play. Let's reset, regroup, and get back on this attack. That's the type of stuff that, if you're Sam Malinsky, after a week, it's not, clear cut. Oh man, these two guys showed up and they're clearly better.
Don't count yourself out.
You've got an opportunity. I actually would have even Malinsky's the type of guy that I'm sure he wouldn't have liked this. I would have liked to see him in all 6 preseason games. He didn't play last night. I imagine he's probably going to Utah Wednesday.
Well, they'll go to Dallas.
Dallas.
Friday.
Yes, I'm sorry.
You're a week ahead, I think.
I'm a week ahead. Yeah, so I expect he'll go to Dallas, and then I'd like to see him right back, in the lineup on Sunday, back here against Utah. Really, those 3 guys, Malinsky, I almost said Rosen, Malinsky, Shillington, and Brandstrom, I think should be in most of the games the rest of the way.
Agreed. And if I'm Malinsky, my mouth is watering right now.
Yes,
There's a lot of opportunity.
I hope he's so hungry.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, because especially if he was watching that game last night, there's an opportunity here for me to slip in. And if Malinsky can come out in Dallas, assuming he plays, and put on like a strong performance, because I came into the preseason games coming out of camp saying Malinsky's probably fourth.
Yep.
Yeah, because he just doesn't have the NHL games the
Right.
other guys do.
Mm-hmm.
He could, with a strong performance tomorrow in Dallas, Friday in Dallas. Jeez Louise, my days. You could very rapidly be like, Sam Malinsky just moved up. Like he's, sitting in the whole shot here suddenly. And can he take advantage of it? But he's now got to go out and be better. And Shillington and Brandstrom, are going to continue to get better. So he's got to keep elevating his game. But I was thinking about for Malinsky last night, I was going to say a strong performance from Brandstrom and Shillington could maybe put them a little too far ahead. They didn't do that. And I think it's still wide open on the back end.
Yeah. How fun is this too? These roster competitions giving us a lot of fuel to
I
talk
know.
about.
Yeah.
We're really into it. And the fun part is none of us really feel like anyone's beating each other out. This isn't a conversation that's over.
No, for anyone.
Yeah.
And seriously, I would honestly even say, I think after last night, it became more of a conversation.
Yeah. 100%.
I think Shillington, with us kind of giving the benefit of the doubt with the gear in camp, he'd be like, I can see he'll get there. He'll get there. And like I said, I was very willing to have Malinsky at 4 going into these games, but after one night, I think it's back to being wide open.
I feel more comfortable with what I saw from Sam Malinsky last year
Mm-hmm.
than what I saw in one preseason game.
But again, like to me, that first preseason game is one where those players should have stood out. That to me, I think is why it's disappointing, because you're right. Let's not get carried away here, in either direction. But I really do feel like, you mentioned Kivi Ranta. You thought that he looked more polished. In these games, your NHL players, your NHL regulars should look more they shouldn't look as chaotic. I think it was last year, or maybe 2 seasons ago, JT Compher played in that first preseason game and he put that puck short side, like a no-look short side shot, and he looked like, I don't give a shit. And it's like, what? We've never seen JT Compher do anything that nice in his life, but that was a difference between an NHL regular and everyone else. That to me is maybe where this is coming off a little bit more harsh than maybe how I actually truly feel. But it's like, you guys should have, those two defensemen should have looked a clear step ahead of Sean Behrens and Callie Rosen and Keaton Middleton and whoever Middleton was playing with.
It was McDonald.
Yes, and Jacob McDonald, but they didn't. That looked like 6 AHL defensemen out there last night.
Which is great for Sean Behrens.
Yeah. Hey, JJ said it last night in the press box. Eagles are going to be good this year.
Mm-hmm.
Got a super chat up there. Rogue Wave. Good content as always. Go LOC. 22 goals this season. Used to see him around when we rented ice at DU. I think 22 goals is a good prediction.
I like 22.
I like 22 on that one.
It's a little bit more brave than your 20 goal
20,
prediction. Going from 13 last year, missing a handful of games, he could have gotten to 20.
Mhm.
Let's give him that little leg up at 22. I like it.
But no, shout out to Rogue Wave. Always here, always in the chat, always active. And always
Why not just go with 25? Someone
always
says.
jumping in. Yeah, hey, there you go.
Why stop there?
Why not 60?
Great tweet yesterday, JJ, about him getting the Sidney
Yeah,
Crosby.
I like
Thank you. I think I
that.
misspelled Sydney though.
Oh, I didn't
Did you go with a
even
Y?
notice.
Yeah, I did.
Wow.
SYD? Really?
Yep.
Wow.
Are you stupid?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's what
It's even one of those things where I'm like, I typed it and I was like, I'm pretty sure that's misspelled. I'm not even gonna look it up. Who cares? And turns out it was misspelled. But hey, doesn't take away from the hilarity of it.
it was
right?
great. It was great.
I'm
Thank
going to
you.
undo my
Mm,
retweet right
yeah.
now.
I actually don't want to be affiliated with it anymore.
All right. Sorry. Stacy asking, do we know why Shillington was ineligible for the Flames last year? He was in the player program. Mental health. Had to walk away from the game for a little bit. Nothing too serious, nothing too crazy. That's going to tarnish the Avalanche image, right?
I've heard nothing to that sort too. Like for his reasons for stepping away, I think it was genuinely just needing to care for his mental health.
I mean, I imagine playing in markets like that, like you've got to be mentally tough to be a professional athlete. I mean, we just sat here dragging him for the last 10 minutes saying he's got to be better, right? So you got to be a mentally tough person to do that, but especially in a Canadian market where there's expectations, and especially when you go out and, like we were talking about the other day, played so well in the 1 year and then really kind of struggled coming back. Imagine there's a lot of scrutiny. There's a lot of attention. I don't necessarily know if that was why.
So
but
it's actually interesting. He's talked a little bit to media and has kind of said, when I'm ready to tell the full story, I'll share it. But it actually sounded like he experienced some kind of betrayal in his personal life.
Whoa.
And so I actually think it's an even more unique circumstance. And I have to imagine that athletes do probably have those types of things happen in their life. And it can be really hard to go and do your job if you experience some kind of trauma in your personal life. So
Yeah.
I'm really sympathetic to his situation.
Totally. No, especially because, I think about that with Drew N all the time too. Like individuals that are willing to step away to take care of, something that's not a physical ailment, especially in pro sports and especially in sports like hockey and football, where it's you got to be tough. You got to go out there and be a man, go be tough. It's hard for those guys to step back and say, I'm not okay. I'm not doing okay with this. And I can't perform at my job with the way that I'm feeling. So I'm with you. I'm not even sympathetic. I love the fact that he did it. I think more people need to do
I
stuff
agree.
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, tough to walk away from a dream job while making very good salary to, address stuff like that. So, yeah, more honorable. Yeah, that's all we have for today. Anything else you guys want to throw out there? Want to run through some more comments? Or should we wrap up?
Yeah, was there anything good comment-wise, Chlo?
Yeah, Chloe looks like she's scrolling, looking for
Oh,
something.
yeah. Any idea when Altitude is announced? Because there was another comment asking about this as well up near the top. So, again, I've talked to some more of my sources, and I'm hearing the same things. But, again, and I put this in one of the first tweets that I put out, I'm talking to a couple people here, and there were some folks who were telling me, like, oh, yeah, it's coming. But then when I talked to two other people in particular, they were like, yeah, it is, but, like, we're worried about getting this off the ground by the time the season starts. Like, it would be great to have it done ahead of time and get the nice press release and, the big fanfare. But I've been told by people on several different sides of a lot of this, it continues to move down the track, and all they're concerned about is making sure that the games get on the air when the regular season starts. And I put this in the very first tweet that I sent out about all of this. I have people telling me this stuff who are very confident in what they're saying. I remain highly skeptical of this entire situation purely because of how everything has gone for more than half a decade now. And I've got a pretty good grasp on where the breakdown was that led to this whole situation on both sides, both pertaining to Altitude and on the distributor side. And like it's messy. Like that's why it's gone on this long. And it's, stubbornness, not just from one side or the other. So there's a lot that's at play here. I will remain skeptical till we get that press release. You know what? I'm going to remain skeptical until I turn it on my television at home. Like, it's just, there's a lot of balls in the air on this. There's a lot of money at play. There's a lot of advertising dollars at stake. So there's a lot of different things that they've got to get sorted out. But I'll repeat, what has been reported to me, that they've got multiple balls in the air right now, that there are multiple distribution options that they are looking to get to market simultaneously. I'm not going to go too far into it. I've heard what is being proposed and what it sounds like they are trying to get over the finish line. And I do genuinely think it's going to be good for fans. There's going to be multiple options, kind of varying levels of options. But again, people that I'm talking to maintain, yes, this is going in the right direction. Yes, we are on track to finally get this resolved. But I'll say it again, and I'm sure you feel the same way. I'm sure everyone who's listening feels the same way. I will remain skeptical until this gets done because I know what has gotten us to this point. And I'm just not going to trust that people are going to get out of their own way until I see it happen. So that's the latest update that I've got. I spoke with multiple people this week that have maintained what, or I guess it was over the weekend, what has been reported, but we'll see. October 9th is the first Avs game. Nuggets start about 2 weeks after that. And again, those are what I'm being told. At the end of the day, as much as they'd love to get a deal done right now, those are the dates that they're focused on.
Yeah.
So that's the latest that I got.
Cool. Jesse says, yeah, okay.
Like I said, we'll see.
Yeah.
When I can turn altitude on my television at home, I'll say, "Hey, they got it done." But until then, I'm going to remain skeptical.
Cool. Anything else we want to get to?
Anything else, Chlo?
Sounds like we're good. Awesome. Well, here's a great place to wrap. Thanks for hanging out with us here on Guerilla Sports Off Ice. We will be back on Friday as a podcast, but we'll still be hitting you with updates from practice /
Whatever.
Training camp extension, whatever.
Yeah.
However you want to
Yeah, I
call
don't know
these
what to call
ice
it.
sessions coming up this week, but they get back on the ice tomorrow. So, we'll be there covering all of it. Thanks for hanging out with us today. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.